A diplomatic storm is brewing between the United States and Canada. Canada has abruptly banned American travel through its territory to Alaska, a move that disrupts tourists, supply chains, and thousands of Americans who rely on this land route. The decision, announced by Prime Minister Trudeau, is more than a travel inconvenience. It's a bold political statement. Former President Donald Trump quickly seized on the issue, blasting Trudeau and the Canadian government, calling the ban a national insult and a sign of weak American leadership. His fiery response has energized his supporters and injected volatility into the situation. The Biden administration now faces a critical test: how to respond to a key ally while safeguarding American interests. Canada cites environmental and security concerns, while the U.S. questions the reliability of international agreements. The ban isolates Alaska, forcing tough conversations about its unique geography and dependence on Canada. Tonight, we break down what the ban means, why it happened, and how leaders and ordinary people are reacting. The relationship between two of the world's closest allies is being tested like never before. The Alaska route is a network of highways, most notably the Alaska Highway, connecting the lower 48 states to Alaska. For decades, it's been the main artery for American citizens, truckers, and tourists. Canada's new ban blocks US-plated non-commercial vehicles and imposes strict new rules on commercial trucks. Alternatives like flying or using the Alaska Marine Highway are costly and limited. Canada claims the ban protects its environment and security, citing violations of previous transit rules. Critics argue it's a political move, possibly tied to ongoing trade disputes. The result? Alaska is cut off by land, supply chains are disrupted, and families and businesses are left scrambling. The tourism industry on both sides of the border faces a potential collapse. This is more than a policy spat. It's a severing of a vital continental connection. Former President Trump's reaction was immediate and incendiary. He blasted the ban on social media, calling it a total disgrace and blaming weak leadership in Washington. Trump insisted such a move would never have happened under his watch, promising he would have forced the border open. He called for harsh retaliation, closing the US-Canada border and imposing massive tariffs on Canadian goods. "No more maple syrup," he declared, vowing Canada would come crawling back. Trump's rhetoric frames the issue as a test of national strength, not a diplomatic challenge. He's using the crisis to draw a sharp contrast with President Biden, presenting himself as the only leader who can restore American respect. The complexities of Canadian sovereignty are ignored in favor of a simple narrative: America is being disrespected. His approach appeals to his base, prioritizing political points over diplomatic solutions. The fallout of his words is secondary to the message of strength. For Trump, the Alaska route ban is a symbol of national humiliation and a campaign rallying cry. The diplomatic consequences remain to be seen. In Ottawa, Prime Minister Trudeau frames the ban as a matter of national security and environmental protection. Trudeau insists the decision was not made lightly, citing repeated violations of transit rules by American travelers. Canadian officials avoid direct criticism of the US, focusing on legal justifications and the need to enforce their laws. Behind the scenes, some analysts see the move as leverage in ongoing trade disputes over lumber, dairy, and digital taxes. The ban may be a bargaining chip, forcing the US to address other unresolved issues. Domestically, the decision is popular with Canadians who feel their country is often taken for granted by the US. Trudeau's government is asserting sovereignty while trying to avoid permanent damage to the crucial US-Canada relationship. The message: Canada welcomes visitors, but on its own terms. The government is walking a fine line: strong at home, cautious abroad. The stakes for both countries are high. The Biden administration's response is measured and diplomatic, in stark contrast to Trump's confrontational tone. The White House has expressed deep concern and called for a swift resolution, emphasizing dialogue over escalation. Secretary of State Blinken is leading talks with Canadian officials, seeking to restore the vital transit route while respecting Canadian sovereignty. Behind closed doors, pressure is mounting from Congress, especially from Alaska's delegation, to take a tougher stance. The administration must balance appearing strong at home with avoiding a damaging trade war. The challenge resolved the crisis without validating Trump's aggressive approach. Options on the table include new transit assurances and linking the issue to broader negotiations. The goal is a quick, quiet reopening of the route, proving that steady diplomacy works. The outcome will be closely watched by allies and adversaries alike. The stakes, not just Alaska, but the future of US-Canada relations. The world is watching. For Alaska's 730,000 residents, the ban is a personal crisis. The state is now a landlocked island, cut off from the lower 48. Families in the middle of moves are stranded. Students face expensive flights, and businesses see costs soar. The Alaska Trucking Association warns of rising prices as goods shift to slower, pricier sea and air routes. Alaskans feel like pawns in a distant political game, caught between Washington and Ottawa. Local leaders say the ban hurts both Alaskans and their Canadian neighbors in the Yukon. The sense of isolation is real and growing. Some call for investment in alternative routes, while others demand a tougher U.S. response. For now, Alaskans wait, their lives on hold as politicians debate. The state's vulnerability is on full display. The ban has made Alaska's isolation more than a geographic fact. It's a daily reality. The pressure for a solution is mounting. The economic shockwaves from Canada's ban reach far beyond Alaska. Trucking companies scramble for alternatives, driving up shipping costs and causing delays. Prices for Alaskan consumers are set to rise, while tourism revenue in both Alaska and remote Canadian communities plummets. The ban injects uncertainty into the world's largest bilateral trade relationship, making businesses wary of cross-border supply chains. U.S. ports like Seattle may see surges they can't handle, while businesses in states like Montana lose customers. The dispute erodes trust built over decades of economic integration. A single political decision has exposed the fragility of a deeply interconnected system. The lesson: no route, no matter how established, is immune to politics. The rhetoric is sharp and revealing. Trump calls Trudeau very weak, vowing tariffs and demanding respect for America. Trudeau, calm and resolute, insists the ban is about Canadian law and sovereignty, not disrespect. "We value our relationship, but our national interest comes first," he says. Secretary Blinken stresses cooperation. Friends and allies can have disagreements. The mark of partnership is how you work through them. Alaskans, meanwhile, are frustrated and angry. "We are not a bargaining chip," declares Alaska's governor, demanding decisive action from Washington. The sentiment: Alaskans feel exploited, their access cut off by a foreign government. The pressure on U.S. leaders to act is intense. The voices from the front lines are clear. This is more than politics. It's about daily life and fundamental rights. The world is listening to every word. The stakes are personal and political. Canada's closure of the Alaska route has ignited a diplomatic crisis and exposed the fragility of US-Canada relations. Ottawa cites security and environmental concerns. Washington sees a political maneuver with real consequences for Alaskans. Trump's rhetoric has made the dispute a national flashpoint, while Biden's team pursues quiet diplomacy. The next steps are critical. A quick resolution could restore normalcy, but a prolonged standoff risks escalation and economic harm. For Alaskans, the crisis is immediate: rising costs, isolation, and uncertainty. The dispute is a stark reminder of how quickly alliances can be tested. Whether resolved through negotiation or confrontation, this is a defining moment for both governments. The world is watching to see if these allies can find common ground or drift further apart. The journey ahead is uncertain. The stakes could not be higher.